There is no free will. Those were the first words I've read. I woke to them every day for many years. They were written on a sign. The sign was hung above the opposite row of bunks in the sleeping barn. I have no memories from that before farm. I was supposed to be born there. None of the children knew why they were there or where we came from. Nobody even knew how long we had been at the farm. Some children aged, some didn't. I couldn't remember much. But that's what happens when you're not given too much to remember. I remember always being deliriously hungry. We would feed the free small meals a day, but for every one headmaster, Ronan Exton, would make us watch him sprinkle a few drops of clear liquid from a label-less brown bottle on the food. He would then serve behind the steel door and slide it out to each of the meal through the window, so you never knew if your meal was poisoned. Most of us danced around the edges of the food. Nobody was eager to dive in, not when we had seen dozens of kids turn blue and die in front of us after picking the wrong meal. Several of us rarely ate food. I never ate from my plate. I would scavenge what cleans up little scraps they were in garbage. I ate 4 cows. They were just disgusting, as saying implies, and I would go on full Renfield and eat flies, ants, dandelions, cockroaches, clovers, pillbugs, anything living somewhat edible. I would keep the spiders, as I had a special place for those. The 20 boys and 30-odd girls worked at the fields that provided all the food to the farm, in a crumbling wood compound, fenced by a tall barbed wire, surrounding the woods. Past that, the wilderness. Even though there weren't any spotlights or guards, the farm was much more inscrutable than a prison. Every few weeks, Headmaster Inkson would make us near the 100 of us to the edge of his farm, where he would blow a strange brass whistle. Bloodshot German shepherds sprang from the underbush as they had been waiting for his call, mouths foaming as they garnished their teeth on the rusted barbed wire, threatening to break in and chew us alive as the headmaster coldly smiled and spoke with a voice that sounded like gunshots feared away. Their old guard dogs gone rabid. I have learned, through one of you, how to train them so they only obey me, and if you run, they will kill you, or make your wish and you stay here with me. The farm never had answers. Very few people came. The rare delivery trucks, a prison bus, a black-tinted window, Thunderbird that made a powerful turbine roar, as if rocket engines were installed in the hood, and they were only dealt with the headmaster. The only person to ever leave the driver was the driver with the Thunderbird. There was a rumor that we were not all real kids at all. The headmaster Ixon was a demon who crafted us all formed from blood and ash. We never dared to speak against the headmaster, and asking the question so ludicrous. As a question, that would mean a touch from his hard, cruel hand, and a hand that made the surrounding airpin cushion of a pin that would sting your skin as if his hand grazed yours. But above the poisonings, back-breaking labor and cleaning, scavenging food, and never knowing a single day what was going on, we feared the nights, and worst of all, being exhausted from working in the fields all day wasn't enough to overcome the fear to sleep. When it came to the darkest and the air has fallen, we would hear the headmaster's creaking footsteps just appear on the center of the drafty barn without any kind of warning. Sometimes we would hear him walk on the roof, on top of the walls, on the ceiling. I could still hear his breathing. If I closed my eyes, that sick pig's wheezing, agonized breath that sucked in air and out like a guttural exhaust. The breathing and the footsteps would circle and circle until he heard someone cry. That was when the taken would be given one last cry before they were gone, along with the headmaster. The missing child would return to their beds in the morning bearing new marks. A glancing finger left a nasty red-purple smear on one side. Sometimes a black fingertips dotted their bodies. We would never say anything much about these marks to anyone. We were always afraid of the headmaster would hear and give us matching words to boots. Sometimes he would touch you with his entire palm, leaving a wrinkled imprint raw and painful as hot iron brand. I had a few marks as well, But I consider myself lucky that I have only had a few marks, as far as I could tell. I was one of the 4 boys and 5 girls who cleaned up the headmaster's home, the farmhouse. I cleaned the bathrooms and emptied out the shit canisters by a slop bucket and rope. I cleaned the bathrooms and eventually I found a few loose ceiling boards above the toilet when I was left scrubbing mildew. Standing down the windowsill, they were right above this toilet. I began thinking. This was my life after what felt like many years. I swore I could have had named 25 separate times, for the frost came, but we had no way of keeping track of the time, not even by our ages. I swore sometimes we would see a kid go from looking 13, 14, back down to looking half that. Time made no sense at the farm, and I knew I wasn't going to get out waiting. I had awoke one morning to find searing red hot handprint of Mr. Exton's on my upper arm. Hazy starvation-induced palm emerged from the fog of my brain. I went to a special place by the sinisters, and where I had kept every black widow spider I had come across. I kept them and behind a false brick on the side of the farmhouse, where I had collected 8 of them. Discovered that black widows were cannibalistic when grouped together. Only the strongest survive. I kept hosting tournaments until 108 black widow spiders were reduced to 26. The most toxic, twitchy, and bite-crazy widows you will ever want to meet. I was bitten only twice, and came very close to agonizing death both times. I knew one bite wouldn't do a monster like Exon would. I was set. I was ready to attack the last stage of my plan, when everything changed on a cold day in early December, when a helicopter was black, and as the Thunderbird made a couple of circles on the farm. Ryan and Exon went inside. He poisoned half of the meals the day after the helicopter came. And after breakfast, he took us all outside to the farm from the creek outside the chicken slaughterhouse. He began leading us in one by one. A few joined me and ran. Judging from the screams, he caught most of the runners, but he didn't catch me. I spent too many nights fantasizing about this moment when I wasn't listening to his footsteps or sick breathing. I put the black widows inside of an old compartment chocolate box, scavenged out of a woodpile, perfect for keeping me locked in one day. I went up through the floorboards and hid in the space in the bathroom. The headmaster may not sleep through this paranoia, but everyone's gonna go eventually. Even monsters. Those sinisters didn't shit themselves. It was dark by the time that he arrived at the candle. The sound of him pulling down his trousers and his simultaneously grunt masked over the movement of planks above him sighed, pulling the lid out of the box of 26 nightmares, showering the headmaster with ravenous, crazed gladiators. My beauties began biting the headmaster as soon as they landed. The terror on the child farm, the demon named Randon Exon, lied and curled to around his toilet, his eyes swelling shut, his mouth locked in disgusted, surprised, outrageous gurgle of horror as it spasms and racked his whole body. Before his eyes swelled up completely shut, he only saw a small 7-year-old face peering down in the hole of darkness. The missing child. The headmaster began to cackle. I knew this would happen. There's no free will. I have lived 10,000 years already. I have lived your happy summers and wonderful marriages, fruitful success. Your life was beautiful beyond compare. That's why He smashed a few spiders scuttling around with his face, but I could tell he was faint fast. And you and I are ghosts now, were his last intelligible words, before the headmaster breathing had stopped. I hid for 4 hours before carefully making my way to the window, the safest place in the room. The spiders were done and gone. The chopper returned with a convoy of armed men right before sunrise. I was the only survivor on the farm. The captain of the operation was named Clinton Moxley, chief field investigator for the Hair Medical Office. He adopted me, and I took his last name. He was the one who named me Howard. I told my father what little I knew. He corrected me on a few things. The headmaster's name wasn't Exon. His name was named Clark P. Gaines, an anonymous individual. The office had worked and tracked down the headmaster down. where my father was the one in the Thunderbird. Elder Moxley had told me about the time the office had captured the headmaster to study with one of their field labs. The subject grabbed Frank Bledwin's wrist, one of the team's eldest members. They saw Frank's 79-year-old face twist and contorted until the wrinkles disappeared into the flesh and lifted upon his face. In a few seconds of agony, Frank was a middle-aged man again. My father said that personally he stopped over the other agents from interacting, as if they were gathering film evidence of a unique phenomenon associated with Clark P. Janes. Frank was known to be a formidable fighter, but he was helpless to the touch of the genes. Every time Gaines' hand would land on Frank's bare flesh, Frank would scream, turning one of the pubescent every second. Clark only let go of Frank as it was a child again, squirming in the old man's clothes. He chooses victims who had good lives, my father would explain as he tucked me in. His existence is the greatest evidence that time has physical dimension. Something exists, and always existed. He lives in your years just a few seconds. Frank was left with 9 bad years out of 79. You would think to be young again is great, and remember that he was left in the mind of his 9-year-old, without care of fans or family. You know that pain well, Howard, and that office didn't have the resources to care for Frank. We believe Clark Gaines is responsible for over 1,000 homeless children across the world. Frank was just one of them. Another human was used up timeline. I asked my only father why I knew why he adopted me. He brought me to the master's bedroom for dual mirrors and asked me to take off my shirt. Because I owe you. You were an old man once, Howard. You were my mentor and partner in the office. You went to the farm by yourself to try and shut it down. I had hoped that you would remember anything about your past. But I see the headmaster got to you. I looked behind me, using the set of mirrors to see my own back for the first time, and seeing it cover my handprints. That was many years ago, the true headmaster's words, and I had been a ghost amongst the living since then. But it's been hard even sleeping, especially now. For the past few nights, I have heard both the headmaster's footsteps and rasping breath next to my old man bed. My father never said they found the headmaster's body. I know he wants me back his farm. He wants me back. All he wants is his children back.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video. And I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please, stay pretty.